Hey, what's up everyone? Today I thought we would talk about Super Hang-On. Now, this is a game I did not do a restore series on, but I did finish up last October, maybe November, so just a few months ago. The reason why I did not do a video series on this is I was just running out of time. These videos take me a long time to do the restore videos because other than just the work of restoring the game, I have to set everything up. I don't have a point and shoot camera, and the camera that I use is mostly used for like short films, for cinema stuff. I come from a film production background, and so everything I have revolves around that. And for instance, I have to manually focus all my shots. I have to set up lights. You'll see there's a couple lights over there. There's a couple lights over here. I have just about every lamp and light on in here just to provide enough light for this camera, because it's a hog when it comes to, it needs a lot of light. Let's put it that way. Anyways, it takes a long time for me to set up all these shots. I have to, move a tripod around, get the focus right, hit record, start doing my work, stop, set everything up, rinse and repeat. So it takes a long time for me to make restore videos. And quite frankly, what I really need is a point and shoot camera. I should just go and buy one. They're not that expensive. But anyways, I did not do a restore series on this, but I finished it last fall. And I didn't do a complete restore. We'll talk about it a little bit here. So what did I do? I basically, the big thing is I repainted this cowl. It's I believe it's plastic. I don't think it's fiberglass. But these things yellow over time. And if you're at all familiar with, like a beige computer tower or a Super Nintendo, these beige/white plastics that once they hit the sun or any UV light, they just get ugly and yellow. And that was really bothering me about this. I bought this game and it was completely working. So I didn't have to do anything really electronically to get it up and running. It was already working. But man, that just bugged me. And I went back and forth. I just whether or not I should tackle that, because it's a lot of work. There's a lot of masking involved. You'll see there's a lot of decals here. But ultimately, I repainted this. I spray painted it. I tried to save as many decals as I could. There's a few originals, like this guy here's original. A couple, like this guy's original. But then I did have a bunch of reproductions made, because these were really beat up, and it also made my painting a little easier. These are new old stock, these red strips here. Some of it's original, but the big thing is I painted this. I painted the handlebars. Let's see here. What else cosmetically? And mostly it's a lot of cleaning. A couple of these decals, like the Super Hang-On on the side here, that's reproduction. I replaced this gauge plexi. Mine was cracked, and I found someone that had a couple new old stock ones. So that's replaced. Let's see, handlebars. Oh, I replaced the grips. Now, one thing cool about this is these are real motorcycle grips. In fact, these are, I think they're 7/8 inch, but they're legit size, motorcycle size handlebars and grips. So that's pretty cool. I think cosmetically that's mostly it. Just a little TLC everywhere else. As far as internally, electronically, I did do a few things. Let me actually get a tripod. I'm going to have to shut a couple lights off to show you. Okay, so one of the things I did electronically was I replaced the incandescent bulbs that were behind these gauges with yellow LEDs, and that really makes these orange gauges pop a lot more than incandescent bulbs. So I wanted to do that. It's a cheap little way to add a little spice to it. I did try other colors, quite a few actually. I tried red, purple, green, blue, you name it. I tried it, and the yellow ended up being what I went with. I think it just looked the best. And then over here, oops, let's go down. If you guys can see this, I did put a little tiny red LED behind this turbo button. This is the button that you press and hold for turbo speed in Super Alt Run. And it looks a lot worse through the camera than it does in person, but you can kind of see the hot spot right here because that LED has to sit so close. There's not a lot of space inside this area. And, you know, it's a translucent red plastic for this button, but there's no light behind it. And I thought that was kind of silly, especially when, you know, when you approach this game, a lot of times people don't even know that this button is even here. So I thought it was silly not to try to mod this a little bit. And it looks a lot softer in person, but yeah, I put a little red LED behind there. One other thing that I did with this section with the handlebars and whatnot is there's actually a motor inside here. It's a rumble motor, and what that does is it vibrates. It adds a vibration into the handlebars. It's really cool, and it's supposed to simulate the throttle. And so the more that you increase the throttle, the more that motor increases speed and the vibration. So the faster it spins. That had been disconnected here, and I guess it was common, actually amongst collectors as well as operators of arcades, to disconnect that motor because it is pretty darn loud, and some people just don't like that additional noise. In fact, I've basically upped the volume of the game so that you can still hear it over the motor. It is pretty loud, but I think it adds a really, really cool aspect of the game. And so I wanted to get that fixed. So when I plugged it back in, it wasn't running really well. And long story short, it just turned out that there was wiring and a bunch of stuff that was getting in the way of it spinning freely. So I fixed that. And actually, I have a little bit of video of me troubleshooting it. I should throw that up here. But yeah, so that motor I got running, and you know, there's a bunch of other stuff underneath here. Basically, mostly wiring, you know, power for the buttons and the lamps, you know, this flashing bulb, the LEDs. There's two potentiometers, one for the throttle. So when you turn this, it turns a potentiometer. Same with the brake grip here. So yeah, so that's what I did with this section. Well, of course, you've got to have coin mech lights, right? So these are, again, LEDs. I've been doing that a lot with my games just because they're more reliable and they do make the inserts pop a lot more. So I replaced the incandescent bulbs that were already burnt out with these LEDs. The other, probably the biggest thing that I did was I replaced the tube on this monitor. I rebuilt the chassis, you know, replaced all the capacitors and got it all dialed in. But the big thing is that this game had terrible screen burn. And what I mean is, if any of you are familiar with CRTs and old TVs back in, you know, the 80s, is that if you left them on and on the same similar image for a long period of time, you would get, you know, like text like this would get burnt into the phosphor on the tube. And so that's very, very noticeable, especially in games that have very light backgrounds. You notice it really, really well. So like there was the big title, Super Hang-On, came right across here, and you could see that during the demo. So this has a K7000 monitor in it. They're very easy and easy to come by tube replacements for. A lot of TVs in the mid to late 80s and even early 90s were candidates for swapping the tube. So I just replaced the tube with an old 19-inch TV tube, and it looks much, much better. Dialed in all the colors, and it's a beautiful looking monitor. So that's probably the biggest other thing. The one other thing I did was someone made a free play hack, and what I mean is you can replace one of the ROM chips. Actually, there's 4 of them, I guess, that you replace on the circuit board on the PCB. And what that allows is for there to be an attract mode while the game is in free play. Because out of factory, without that, if you turn the game on free play, it just sits on the stage selection screen, and it's a terrible free play option. It's kind of like Pole Position, a few of these other games where they just sit in that screen. Miss Pac-Man has something similar where it just sits on that, press player 1 or 2 to start. And the problem with that is you don't get the attract mode that we all like, but more so, that just sets up the possibility of more screen burn. So someone made that hack so that while it's on free play, it goes through the attract mode. So I burnt those 4 ROMs, replaced them on my board. Pretty simple, but that's about it. Okay, so I've got my keys here so we can open up the door. And one thing interesting about this cabinet is, if you'll notice, it's a really skinny profile at the base here. And actually, when I first got this, I was looking for the back door, and the thing is, there isn't one. So it's actually on the side here. Kind of a cool thing. So if we open it up here. All right, so inside here is basically the guts of the game. The PCB's mounted on the door, and actually down here you can see the 4 ROMs that I burned with a free play hack on them. But otherwise, you know, it's your typical arcade game. Down in there you can see the power supply, and then the transformer, a bunch of wiring, some fuses. This board, there you go. So that board down there is how the power is distributed to the vibration motor, that rumble motor that's inside the handlebars. But yeah, that's basically the guts of Super Hang-On. So let me close this thing up here. All right, and why don't we do a gameplay? Let's play this thing. All right, so Super Hang-On, let's talk about this game a little bit first. So the game came out in '87, which was just a year after Outrun. And if any of you are familiar with Outrun, very, very similar game, except you're in a car. In fact, I think the hardware may be the same, but basically they're both similar racing games. And I just gravitated towards this one when I was in the arcades. It just seemed like a more approachable game. It could be maybe the cabinet is smaller. It's, you know, this is the upright, and so it's a slick little profile that I like a lot. There is also a cockpit where you can, you know, you're basically on top of a motorcycle and you're leaning left and right. It's really cool. But anyways, this is the one I played more than Outrun in the arcades, and the one I wanted in my collection since I don't have a racing game. So, and these don't command a lot of money either. But anyways, so that's kind of that's Super Hang-On. Before this, it was just regular Hang-On. There was the big difference was there was no turbo in that game, and I don't think you had a selection of courses like you do with Super Hang-On. Those are, I guess, the 2 big differences. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let me set up the camera at a different angle, and let's talk about the controls before we start playing. Okay, before we get started, let's talk about the controls. Pretty straightforward. It's a racing game, so obviously your handlebars control your steering, you know, so if you go back, you know, left or right. You got your throttle on the right side here, so the more that you turn this, the faster you're going to go. You got your brake handle right here, which does what it sounds like. It slows you down, but I rarely use that. I almost always just let up on the throttle. So one thing to keep in mind. You got your start button here, and then over here you've got your turbo button. Now when your speed gets to be 280 miles per hour, it'll flash red, and when it does that, you can press and hold this turbo button down to give you an extra boost. I think you go like 320 or something like that. So it's a substantial boost. You have to use this to finish the races. But that's about it. It's pretty straightforward. So with that said, yeah, let's get started. All right, let's get a game going here. And before I do that, I have to admit that it's actually the next day. I screwed up last night. I was playing a bunch of games, and I thought the camera was in a good spot. But it wasn't. I must have played a dozen games. In fact, I played enough games basically because I wanted to show the end of the race. And this is a very difficult game for me. It took me probably, 10 times before I got through the race. And I thought I had the camera on a good spot. I looked at the footage afterwards, and I was covering up a good third of the screen. So the footage was worthless. In fact, let me show it to you. Come on, come on. Come on. Yeah! Anyways, getting back to the game, I think the camera's in a good spot now. If you see like any sort of like a little wave going across the screen, that's just a difference between the camera's frame rate and shutter speed. in contrast with the refresh rate of the CRT monitor. So just ignore that. It's nothing. There's nothing wrong with the camera or with the monitor. It's just that difference. So anyways, let's get started here. I'm going to hit the start button. And I'm going to select beginner stage. And now using the brake, you select which speed you want, or music you want. I'm going to choose Sprinter. Now you'll hear the motor start. Hear that? It's loud. All right. So you really can't make much in terms of a mistake in this in order to get through the race. So I'm just laying off the turbo. Now I'm using the turbo. You can see that I'm at 324 miles per hour, now 280. So I never use the brake. I just don't see a need for it. So there's 6 legs to this course, which you can see in the upper left-hand corner. Just laying off the turbo. And you really need the turbo in this game. You have to use it to pass any sort of race. Okay, not doing too bad so far. And you can see those guys just slow you down. Oh, come on. This is not going well now. I am not going to make it. Usually I like to have about a 10-second cushion, and I'm far from that right now. Oh, I'm just hanging on by a thread. Oh, that just killed me. Look at that. Ah! All right. Well, we're going to have to play another one. But one thing you can do that I try to do is to avoid the other bikes, the other cyclists. I usually will adjust my speed rather than frantically turning around them. That seems to work pretty well. But as you can see, I mean, I'm not the greatest at this game. But yeah, let's do it again. All right. Let's do winning run. All right, so I've got the throttle cranked. And we're approaching 280, and as soon as we do that, now I'm going to engage the turbo. I'm going to let off so I don't go off the road, and re-engage it. Ooh, that wasn't good. Not terrible, but not great. There, I let off the speed just to avoid those two guys. Turbo going in. Ah, there goes my cushion of time. Need to do better than that. That was good. I'm not gonna make it, I can tell already. Oh, that just killed me. Fudge. Look how close I was. There was one more leg. All right, let's do one more. I think I can get through it. This is a tough game though. Gah. Either that or I'm just terrible, but anyways. All right, beginner. Let's do sprinter. Okay. All right. I think part of it is you need to memorize this course. Sometimes it really feels like all these guys are really out to get you. Like that. Not doing too bad so far. That was good. Come on. I think I could do it. Just can't make a mistake. Come on. Yeah! Four 4.4 seconds left. I think that's my best. But I think you get better time depending on how much turbo you use. Yeah, see, I finished with 3. Oh no, I'm up here, 3:11. So yeah, I've done better before. Anyways, let's put our initials in. Use the throttle, and then the brake to select the letter. A lot of people screw this up because it's really sensitive. There we go. I'm lucky. I have easy initials, JDD. But yeah, so that's Super Hang-On. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very difficult game. Great for the collection. I like the profile of it. But yeah, if you like these types of videos, hit the subscribe button or leave a comment. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.